back in 2017, there was some like big company ad, like a Nestle ad or something that ran on, look at what YouTube's doing. They're radicalizing people. This is terrible. And so YouTube reacted to that by, they just wanted to cut their losses, and they said, just defund news and politics right now. That was what was called adpocalypse. So they cut off all the funding overnight for
what was that?
independent news.
What was the catalyst for that? What was the video that did that?
I don't know what the actual video was. I know it was like a white nationalist video that ran like an official ad.
We should find out what that was.
Yeah, you'd have to go back to 2017 articles to find it.
Because I remember adpocalypse, but I remember just going, what is going on, and not paying attention.
Yeah. Well, I covered it at the time. It was huge for us because we were one of the ones affected. We went from, we literally, all the money wiped out overnight, and we didn't know when it was going to come back. Now, thankfully, it did come back about a week or two later, but it was never really the same since then, and it was in 2018, I believe, the YouTube CEO said, look, we're addressing the misinformation and disinformation problem, and so now we have authoritative content and borderline content, and so the YouTube algorithm pumps the authoritative content and, like, suppresses the borderline content.
Is it PewDiePie?
PewDiePie.
But PewDiePie was not a white nationalist.
And which year?
He's just a shit poster. You know, he's like a funny
that's
guy.
true. If this is true, then it's even worse than I remember it being.
PewDiePie in 2017, the most subscribed YouTuber of all time, at the time rather, excuse me, came under fire for posting videos that YouTube deemed anti-Semitic and hate speech. These videos included references and jokes about Adolf Hitler, as well as 2 Indian men holding a sign stating "Death to all Jews." At the same time, videos including Chief Keef dancing to Alabama N-word and other extremist content were surfacing, leading to the UK government, Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, Johnson & Johnson, and many other major brands pulling or pausing their advertisements on YouTube. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, so they rolled out this whole system to deal with this, and they end up suppressing us, you know, and basically putting us in league with stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, you know,
is weird.
It's a struggle. It is a struggle because we were growing at a tremendous clip.
Yeah.
And then basically overnight, it's like they flipped a switch in the algorithm and boom. Now, the issue is with recommendations. So now, if you're already subscribed to me, you're going to see a bunch of my stuff pop up. If you're not subscribed to me, it is very unlikely you're going to get one of my videos pop up in the recommended algorithm. So you can't really grow when that's the case. You're just basically keeping your fan base.
So the way you grow is doing other people's podcasts and getting people from their fan base to come to you, like Patrick Bet David.
Well, not even that. It used to be if you typed in whatever news thing you were interested in, one of the top videos could be a secular talk video. But now, if you type it in, it is never that. There was a time when we used to run circles around CNN. They'd get like 2,000 views a video back in like 2015, and we were getting way more than that, 30,000 or whatever it was. And then now you go look at any CNN video, even though the thumbnails are shit, the titles are shit, the content is shit, they'll get 300,000, 400,000 views. Because that's what YouTube can decide to make somebody or break somebody like that. Just by tweaking the algorithm. If they decided, hey, what if once every 6 months we put a secular talk video on the front page of YouTube, that would immediately like double the size of my audience.
It's interesting. I wonder how much they think about that impact. And I wonder if they just look at it in terms of like bottom line, making money.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
They're scared of advertisers running away. And look, they don't know what I'm going to say.
Right.
They don't know what I'm going to say. For all they know, I'm going to come out tomorrow and say, I think the flat earth theory is real. And then it's like, okay, boom, scandal. Then they suppress me even more, right? But they don't know that there's a body of work there. I put my record up against anybody else's in terms of giving the facts and the information. And then I give my take on it, of course. But the facts and the information comes first. And they just throw us in league with the borderline content. And they say, look, he's not reputable because he's not with a major media outlet. And of course, the irony is, all these major media outlets have made horrendous mistakes over the years. Not being kind by calling them mistakes. Like these are the people who cheerleaded us into the war in Iraq.
Exactly.
And they don't get docked in the algorithm if they do something that's incorrect.
Did you see the conversation that I had with Jan Werner about that?
I did not know.
Yeah, there was the exact same thing where he was talking about that the government should be regulating the internet.
That's crazy.
And I was like,
that's
what
crazy.
are you talking
about? That's anti-First Amendment. That's like the very first thing in the Constitution.
He just has this idea of the government, and by government he means left-wing government only, that they're going to be altruistic and they're going to look at it the right way and do the right thing. I'm like, what are you saying? I'm like, these are the same people that brought us into the Iraq War under false pretenses. He's like, no, that was politicians. I go, that's the government. The government is politicians. Well, we need better politicians. Like, no, you need people to be able to sort this shit out. It's going to be messy. That's the thing.
It is going to be messy, yeah.
They want it to be not messy. There's no way. There's no way.
Right.
You got to accept the fact that it's going to be messy.
who's going to watch the Watchmen is the old saying. So like you set up this like, you know, this overlord group that gets to determine everything. But it's like, what about when they're wrong? And they're going to be wrong from time to time, because sometimes the conventional wisdom ends up being wrong. Sometimes it ends up being right, but you don't know. You have to, like you said, it's going to be messy. You got to try to figure it out. And anybody putting their thumb on the scale and trying to change the outcome by, you know, fiat from above, that's not the way it's supposed to work.
Right, and it's not just that their conventional wisdom is going to be wrong. It's that they're being fed propaganda.
Absolutely.
And they're disseminating it.
Absolutely.
Ad hoc, with no questioning it whatsoever, no pretense, no worry.
Yeah, they have they have a lot of sources inside the FBI and the CIA, and if the government comes out with their official line, they just write it up like little stenographers.
Right.
They're stenographers. They're not journalists. They're not reporters. You're supposed to fact check them too. Somebody in the CIA says something, you still got to say, hey, is it right or is it wrong?
One of the best examples of that is the Twitter files. You see no coverage of this on CNN. No coverage of this astounding collusion between intelligence agencies and a social media network to suppress accurate information that would harm the political party that's in power, which is fucking wild. It's wild that the news isn't covering this, because, like, arguably, that's as big a scandal as Watergate. It's as big a scandal as any other times in the past where we've found that there's been some really shady shit going on that would change the way people would see a narrative.
Remember when you had Mark Zuckerberg on?
Yes.
And Zuckerberg was like, yeah, the FBI reached out to us and they said, you know, hey, there's going to be a disinformation dump from Russia coming. And so we were ready when the Hunter Biden thing dropped. Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, this is a perfect example of they were just wrong. They said, oh, this isn't Hunter Biden's laptop. You know, it's no big deal. This is just Russian disinformation. Yeah. And then it turns out it was his laptop. And
I think he was just being accurate, and it seemed better than the way Twitter handled it.
Right, and it was, but it's still, this is exactly what we're talking about, the algorithmic suppression, where it's like, look, just let people decide for themselves. And yes, you're going to have the occasional circumstance where maybe a flat Earth video does get 2 million views,
Dude, I
right?
love a good flat Earth video.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, sometimes these conspiracy theories, if you look at it as just like a creativity thing, it's interesting, right? Like, oh my God, they can find a way to make a case for a position that's so absurd where it makes you go, huh.
Exactly.
but that's okay, right? And some people will fall down the rabbit hole, and that sucks. But I do think you have to have some degree of faith that most people are going to be like, yeah, no, this is kind of bullshit.